Hello and welcome to the VentureForth podcast. I'm your host, Joe Mahavutivani. We'll be chatting with some of the most interesting founders, startups, and VCs about the experiences that led them to where they are today, what they're currently working on, as well as the journey ahead of them. So on today's show, I'm excited to welcome Lisa Fetterman, co-founder and CEO of Nomiku. Nomiku is a smart sous vide machine that makes delicious home cooking accessible and affordable to everybody. You may have seen Lisa and her husband Abe on Season 8, Episode 10 of Shark Tank, which aired in early December, where they closed a deal with Chris Sacca. As an avid home cook myself, and I also worked on the line in my past, I love experimenting with new cooking techniques, so I'm very excited to welcome Lisa to the show.
Thank you for having me, Joseph. Hi, everyone.
Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yes. Okay, so my background is that I actually came from a traditional journalism background. I went to NYU for journalism and worked at Hearst. And then at night, I would work for Mario Batali and Jean-Georges and folks that had a 3 Michelin star. I was obsessed with food and learning new things. And I saw this huge hulking piece of laboratory equipment everywhere that I went. And I was like, hey, I really think that I could just make one myself instead of spending $2,000 to buy one. And lo and behold, we invented the first ever home sous vide immersion circulator, and since then we've gone through YC, Forbes 30 Under 30 for the innovation, as well as ZAG at 30 Under 30, and a White House Honor Maker for manufacturing in the United States.
Wow, you have had quite a path to get to where you are today. Like you mentioned, including Kickstarter campaigns, YC, and most recently on Shark Tank. So before we get into that, I would love to know, what goes into building a hardware product? I've built software products in the past, but I wouldn't know where to begin with hardware.
That's a common thing that people feel, and justly, actually. Like I would say just a little bit over 8 years ago, it would have been impossible for somebody to grassroots start a hardware company. It was just impossible. There was no Arduino. There was no Raspberry Pi. Even the software language at that point was unsophisticated for embedded systems. And now we have all these new embedded languages, or actually, with Arduino, you just use a language that's very close to C++. And that took a long time. That was a long time coming. All of this is the culmination of 50 years of very hard work in the back end, in software and hardware, and we're taking advantage of it just right now. How we got started was that we made DIY open source kits. We traveled all across the United States to hundreds of maker spaces and sold hundreds and hundreds of our DIY open source kits. People would take our classes and basically spend 6 to 8 hours soldering together their own sous vide machine. We're like, there's totally a market here if people who are the earliest adopters are this gung-ho. And sure enough, there is. Sous vide as a category is growing and adopting faster than the cell phone, the microwave, the internet. It's such a huge market right now. We're just like chasing demand every day.
So you're building that in the U.S.?
We built it right here on 14th and South Van Ness.
Wow, that's incredible. Why did you choose to do that versus going abroad?
We went abroad for our first product, the Nomiku one, when we invented the home sous vide immersion circulator, because that is what you did then. It was the only way. There were so many components that you could only get in the East, like PCBs and certain logic components for the logic board just don't exist in the West at all. There's no factories that are making them. So we went to China and we stayed there next to our factory for 2 years to learn how to manufacture from the ground up. We would literally, wake up and turn on the lights in the factory, train new people that came and went. And we're like, we understand the processes very well, and we can build in the United States for our second one. We have lots of help from Mayor Ed Lee and President Barack Obama that were able to make manufacturing in America cheaper than in China. And because we make a machine that the world has never seen before, it is imperative that we do lean manufacturing so that we can close certain parts of our line and open certain parts of our line for QA. It's also better to protect your IP when you manufacture in America. I know exactly who comes in and out of my factory and who knows how to make it.
Definitely. And so, the popularity of sous vide cooking seems to be in its infancy right now, or at least relatively. What can the industry do to create awareness and prevent the technique from being just a fad?
I think that it's already been used for 50 years industrially. It's used by the British Royal Navy. It's used by Noma Saison Restaurant, Meadowood, Jose Andres, and those are people who will never stop using it. And the culinary world will always use it. At home, it should be education is really important. But this is a thing that is very easy to become part of your repertoire because it is physically just you putting your food inside of a bag and then putting the water and walking away, and that's it. It's really, really easy to educate folks, and as long as that education happens, I think people will use it every day. We just went through our cohort data actually because it's Wi-Fi connected, and we tracked engagement. After 6 months of people buying their unit, we saw that 40% of people were still active users 6 months later.
Wow, that's incredible. I've actually spoken to a number of sous vide converts, including my brother-in-law, and so far they love it. He's using it probably twice a week. But one of the biggest complaints that I've heard is with removing air from the zip-top bags they use to prevent the food from floating in the water bath. Since most home cooks don't have vacuum bags and a sealer handy, what are some helpful strategies to achieve similar results to vacuum sealing, and are these products in your pipeline?
We have actually never used a vacuum sealer at home because we're so good with the water displacement method. And what that is that you put your food inside of a zip seal bag and then dip it in the water up to the seal and close it. When you have the water surrounding the bag and the barometric pressure of the water pushes out all of the air.
Awesome. I'm going to definitely let him know to do that.
That's the way to go. I have videos of it on Nomiku.com.
Awesome. And so there are a number of competitors to Nomiku in the market. What makes Nomiku different than those other machines?
I think that it's a strong showing that this is much more than a fad, the fact that we have so many competitors. What differentiates us is the power that we use. So we're the most powerful unit that you can buy. We also come with our community, which is called eTender. It controls your machine, and you can create your own recipes into the machine. And actually, you can use our app eTender to control every single other device that has Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connection out in the market. All of our competitors can use our app.
So as a cooking enthusiast and certainly a foodie myself, 8 years Yelp Elite strong, you've got some amazing names that have supported your business, including like Dominique Crenn, Hugh Atchison, Josh Skeens, Chris Cosentino, Kristen Kish, Melissa King, and a lot more. And these are huge fans of yours, and they're huge names in the culinary world. How did you get them involved with Nomiku?
Just definitely boots on the ground. I met them in person, shook their hand, explained what I was doing, gave them tours of my factory, sent books, met them in restaurants, met them at their restaurant, and just had the conversation with them. Like, we're actually real friends with each other. Like, I see Chris Cosentino probably like twice a month.
Wow. And they're using them in their professional kitchens?
That's right. I believe Noma has 16 machines.
And so you've been a part of a number of different platforms to really to take your business to the next level. As mentioned, Kickstarter, YC, Shark Tank. How have each of these springboards contributed to your growth and to where you are today?
They were definitely needed at different times. YC was much more important to us when we were in our infancy, more like as a company, when we were developing our strategy as a platform, because we're not a hardware company. We do hardware, software, and goods. That's our platform. And that was important for us in winter 15. And then Shark Tank was great because it was time to take it mainstream. And there's nothing more mainstream than 8 million Americans.
Right, definitely. And I'd love to talk a little bit about Shark Tank because I caught your episode earlier earlier this month, maybe 3 weeks ago. So for people aspiring to be on the show, what was that experience like?
Well, they actually reached out to us 2 years ago when we first made our original appliance, but we weren't ready for it yet. It wasn't ready to be mainstream. There was still a lot of education barriers. But this year, with our Wi-Fi connected Nomiku, our best-selling international #1 best-selling cookbook, Sous Vide at Home, and our food program and our software system, our app, it was exactly the right time. Like we were fully ready to go. There were definitely a lot of things to sell, and it was good to go on the TV.
Definitely. So you received about 10 minutes of airtime. Stripping away the magic of television, how long were you actually in front of the sharks? And ultimately, what was the outcome, I guess the Shark Tank bump of the experience?
Uh, well, our sales went up 1,000%.
Wow.
So that was incredible. And I highly recommend anybody with a fully fleshed out consumer product to go on Shark Tank. If you do it too early, then you're not going to capture those sales unless you have pre-orders, I guess. But you really want to be able to ship live when that's happening. We're shipping live, and we still got a back order. And we have 10 minutes that you see, but you're in there for at least an hour. I don't even remember how long we were in there, but much longer than 10 minutes.
Certainly. I mean, you guys killed it. You got offers from both Mr. Wonderful and Chris Sacca, and eventually closing with Chris. What's it been like working with him, and how has his involvement, along with that feature, benefited your company, and as he continues to support you?
Chris Sacca is so legendary. I would say that I just have a lot to learn from him. It's not so much like the advice he gives, but just listening to him and seeing what he does with people who are pretty legendary like that. It's all about quantity and not quality time. It's kind of like the YC model, where you just spent a lot of time with people who have done really, really amazing things. And I look forward to doing that more with Chris Sacca.
Definitely. What surprised you most about being on the show?
What surprised me the most? How truly dramatic it is. It is like what you see on TV. It is so the nervousness and the intensity. It's so intense. It's so much more intense than you can experience on TV. That was surprising to me.
There's got to be more than just the sharks in the room. I mean, probably a whole crew of people behind the scenes.
Yeah, but you don't actually even see them. They're very far away. They're very far off, and you when you're negotiating a deal, my eyes were not paying any attention to anybody other than Chris Sacca.
Were you targeting him before you went into the tank?
Well, you can't talk to the sharks before you go into the tank.
I guess as an ideal investor.
An ideal investor is definitely Chris Sacca. I mean, you can't get better than him.
Definitely. So another thing that's unique about your business, or maybe not as unique as some may think, is working with your significant other. You work with your husband, and I suspect that can present unique challenges. How do you manage your work-life balance?
I think we're actually super unique in that we started our company at the same time we started our relationship. So Nomiku has always been with us as part of our relationship. And it's fantastic because I have instant trust. Whatever he says, he can speak for me, I can speak for him. It's pretty great. I can't imagine not doing this with somebody that you're married to.
Certainly. What are some mistakes that you've made along the way, and what did you learn from them?
There are lots of mistakes. There's so many. I would say that manufacturing, we were delayed a lot in our manufacturing, and that's just when you're a first-time manufacturer. That sometimes is just unavoidable. You just have to eat your mistakes. There's sometimes even no way out of them. You just have to build in room to have mistakes like that. I would say another mistake is I would say SEO and paid ads. We've never done paid ads in our lives. It's always been PR and word of mouth and just brute force me going out there and getting things done. And I wish I had started to know what to do with paid ads earlier, because then we can just turn on something. But now that's something that we do now, that we're like focusing on now. Like, how do we do demand gen? And that's like some things that consumer hardware startups other than us have like a great handle on. And I'm very impressed by them.
Definitely. And now people can find you in retail as well.
Yes, we're in 57 Williams-Sonoma stores and on Williams-Sonoma online. If you order today, their expedited shipping is fantastic for Christmas.
Definitely. I hope that we can maybe even expedite the show and get it out before it's encourage people to get on that deal. So ultimately now, I mean, you come so far, and like you mentioned, the technology's been in development for so many years. What's next for Nomiku?
Just trying to take over the world, Joseph. The same thing we do every day. We've got to get this into every single home. Like, everybody could really, really benefit from this. Senior citizens, teenagers who are going to college for the first time. It's just like, it just breaks my heart when people eat a bad meal or don't know how to nourish themselves. Everybody should be able to know how to cook. Now, knowing how to cook is like not knowing how to make love, in my opinion. Like, you have to know certain things to be an independent person. And this is one of those important things that you shouldn't sleep on.
Absolutely. I love the analogy. I'd love to wrap up with some quickfire questions capped off with an opportunity for you to plug anything that you like. So besides your own cookbook, and there is a cookbook that is a complement to the Nomiku, what is your favorite book?
My favorite book, I would say for work, it would be a book called Just Listen. It's written by this guy who coached FBI on hostage situations, and it's about basically getting your way through listening to people and how to listen. I didn't understand what listening was until I read that book. I thought I listened to people, but this book taught me how to actually listen to folks. That sounds like a crazy basic thing, but I really needed help. That book was very helpful. So for work, I would recommend Just Listen. And for personal pleasure, I like this book called Alluring Lettuces. Alluring Lettuces. It's by a botanist, and every single thing is hand-drawn. Every single lettuce and plant that you can plant is hand-drawn, and there is like off-the-cuff recipe. He's just like, yeah, just boil it with some water and some onions, with every one. Like, I learned from that book that carrots weren't originally orange. The Dutch made them orange because they liked that color. And carrots, when they were first cultivated, they were cultivated for their greens because their greens had such heavenly aroma. So that's a great one. It's one of the many books on my nightstand.
And so, with your restaurant industry background, and I imagine that you also do some home cooking as the founder of Nomiku. What is your signature dish, or even your favorite dish?
One of my signature dishes with Nomiku is my porcini coated steak. So,
Amazing.
Oh, thank you. Or my Matsutake salt steak. So I go out and I forage for porcinis and Matsutakes. I dry them in my dehydrator, grind them up into a powder, and mix it with omnivore salt. And then I coat the entirety of a huge, like Fred Flintstone steak. And I sous vide it for 57 degrees, at 57 degrees Celsius for 2 hours, and then I finish it on my grill. And everybody, it's all gone the second it comes off the grill.
Absolutely. You mentioned the dehydrator. That's a Skunkworks project for Nomiku. Is that coming soon?
Ooh, I think so. I think that sounds like a good idea. We should release it.
Most entrepreneurs I know have very little free time. If you had more time to spare, how would you spend it?
I would spend it volunteering if I had more free time. I volunteer right now on Sundays to take care of kids. But if I had even more free time, I would volunteer at a soup kitchen because I just love to chop. So they can put me on the chopping line.
What do you collect, if anything, and why?
Oh, wow. I collect business cards quite by accident. just because we go out so often. Um, the thing that I really do love to collect is specialty salts. I love all forms of like specialty harvested salts, like Jacobson salts, and then I'll go to all of this, all of that in San Francisco, and she always has like just a giant pile of specialty salts, like salts with tomato and basil in them, salts that taste like heirloom tomatoes, salts that taste like volcanic ash. Yeah, I have all of that.
I've got to try all of those things. And so as somebody who is, first of all, a real hustler and, it seems like, taught yourself to do a lot of different things. What is the last thing that you taught yourself to do?
The last thing that I taught myself to do. Oh, wow. That's a great question. Dang! You have me racking my brain. Wow. Once it becomes me, it's like, it just goes, right? I think the last thing I taught myself how to do was do blood work. So do like medical blood work for a person.
Whoa. I guess that could be a topic all in itself. That sounds very interesting. And so what is something that you feel strongly about that not many people know?
What do I feel strongly about that not many people know? I think I'm one of those people where people say to me, "How do you really feel?" Because I make my opinions pretty well known. What do I feel strongly about? I believe that women's rights are human rights. I believe that Black Lives Matter. I believe that you should adopt your dog and not buy it. There we go.
I agree. I am a huge dog lover. So, yeah, thank you so much. And so the next 30 seconds are all yours to plug anything that you like.
Okay. Well, hello, people out there. What I would really like to plug is a tour at my factory in San Francisco. If you're in the neighborhood, and you're in hardware, especially if you're a hardware founder, I'd love to meet you. And I love for you to see my factory, and I'd love to teach you about how to manufacture in the United States if that's in your interests. I have so many resources going through what I've gone through to manufacture in the United States. My website is Nomiku'd.com, and you can contact me through there. My email is lisa@Nomiku'd.com.
And I would just like to thank you so much for your time today. And it was so great to learn about you and your business. And I hope that everyone listening will go out and try a Nomiku and help us turn the word Nomiku into a noun and a verb and, Nomiku your food.
That sounds great.
If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe to the VentureForth podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. You can also follow at VentureForth Pod on Twitter for our latest updates. As always, I'm your host, Joe Mahavutivani, and thank you for listening to the VentureForth podcast.